I mean, was the target of a cancel culture. I had a university try to get rid of me because I wrote one little essay in which I said something they didn't like.
Okay, first things first, tell us who you are and what your title is.
Okay. Well, I'm Donna Hughes, an American, and I've been an academic. I'm now retired for the last couple of years, but I'm still working. I'm still an editor of a journal. I still like writing. I sort of focus more on the short form rather than long academic papers now.
That's got to be a bit of a relief. And you have been coming to this event now for 30 years, is that correct?
Yes, my first event was in 1996, and I really almost just sort of stumbled upon it. And when I heard Marianne Rajavi speak the first time, I was electrified. I was sitting in the compound in Paris, and as she was speaking, not only was her ideas completely new to my knowledge of feminism and women's rights and women empowerment, but she was giving examples of how they were already in practice with the Women's Liberation Army, with women moving into leadership. And I specifically remember the hair rising on my arms. And I realized these were totally new ideas. And I started looking around the room. I remember just going, is anyone else having this experience? Is anyone else understanding that these ideas are totally new and they're already in practice? And that was just a transformative event for me.
I mean, it's incredible to have such a long commitment to anything, to take time out of your life and spend money to come here. So it must be deeply rewarding. What do you think is the biggest message from this year's event?
I think one that maybe wasn't explicitly spoken, but one that was in all the messages, and that is we have to continue, that we're on the verge of something, and we just have to keep pushing forward, and that there may be people that have to sacrifice for it, but we will continue.
And so you've studied very heavily in women's studies, correct? And so I want to talk to you a little bit about the men in the movement, because I know right now as a, person from the United States, anytime I see men online advocating and saying the right thing, it really touches me, because we really need equal participation from everybody. And as much as I'm for women's empowerment and all of that, but we still need to be a unified force. So what are your thoughts on the men in the movement and how that's translated into 30 years later?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because the very first person I encountered from the movement was a man. And in December 1995, I was in London doing some Christmas shopping, and a man stopped me and said he had a large 3-ring binder, and he said, "Could I talk to you a minute about women?" And of course, I'm a feminist. I'm in women's studies. You want to talk to me about women? Okay, what do you have to say? And he opened this book, this notebook, and it was completely full of pictures of women, page after page. And he said, "These are all women who've been executed in Iran." And although I had heard things about Islamic fundamentalism, I was stunned. I had no idea. And then he told me that his wife was one of them. And I was so moved. But he continued to talk about the women and what they were doing. And I remember as he was leafing through this notebook and telling me all about the women and about how many of them were professional women, his wife was among them, I just remember thinking in the back of my mind, who is this man? I have never spoken to a man who speaks about women in this way and is clearly concerned enough to stop people in the middle of the street to talk about what's happening to women in his country. And we spoke for a little bit longer, and then that was the end. But that memory stayed with me. And then, as I said, the next year, I met people from the resistance. And it was really only, I think, a number of years later that I started thinking about that event, and I realized he was a member of the resistance. That's who he was. And I have to say that there have been a number of times in conference I've sort of looked at the faces of the
Right,
men and
is he
thinking,
here?
like, is he here? Would I recognize him? And I'm not sure that I would,
Right,
but
right.
it's certainly was something that made a big impression on me the first time I met a man from the resistance, and I didn't even know that's who he was.
I mean, it's phenomenal. It really shows you the power of what one person can do and the impact that you can have. And now look at you, 30 years later, coming to this event, you know, meeting all these women, contributing. You know, you were on stage last night at the event, which is, you know, really incredible to see. How have things shifted over the last, I mean, 30 years is a long time. So you went through a lot of ebbs and flows with the movement. So what keeps you coming back every year?
I think maybe certainly world events have shifted a lot, but I think that there's not a lot of change in what you're hearing. It's a very consistent message. It's a very consistent politics, and I'm always learning. I don't think I ever attend an event in which I don't learn something, because my ears are always open to what is it new, what more insight can I get, and sometimes because I have heard so many speeches that it isn't necessarily the big messages anymore. It's the little things that you hear and you think, aha, you know, I now have more insight into these people and this movement than I did before.
You know, I feel the same way about Bob Marley. Don't make fun of me too hard, but you know, it's like you can hear a song for the 300th time, and you get that message, right? So it's not always so big, but it's that foundation and laying that groundwork over and over again. It's a pretty difficult time for women in the world right now, especially I think the United States right now. The women are really struggling with all of the terrible things that are happening and have happened, and there's evidence of it, and it doesn't still seem to be an issue. So what would be your message to women? Like, I know personally it's been a little difficult, right? That's a big reason why I came. When Zolal invited me, of course I knew it would be an impactful event, but I didn't even know what it was. But I just knew there was going to be a lot of amazing women, and I was like, I'm going to go soak up some of that energy, so I stopped yelling at people on Facebook and have more impact with my life and my work and what I'm doing. So what would you tell women right now who are struggling?
I know women are, because you think about the second wave of the women's movement and how much we thought we achieved, and in amazing way how fast it disintegrated. And I know that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of women who are sitting around thinking, I know better than this. I know there's something wrong. How can I connect with people the way we did decades ago? And I know that there are likely millions of women who feel that deficit and are struggling, and they don't know what to do. Because I belong to different organizations, and some of them are very, very different from one another. And I think one of the things that's difficult is you can go to one organization or even one group of women, or it seems even one friend. There are things you can talk about, and then there are things that have to be totally off limits because there's just so much division, there's so much animosity, there's so much lack of understanding of any kind of a common goal. So I would say that's the fragmentation, and how deep the fragmentations are is a serious problem.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I really struggle with that, you know, and a lot of my friends are like, I can't cut my parents off. And I'm like, I don't want you to cut your parents off. I want us to have difficult conversations. And I don't want it to be necessarily on a stage, but with your girlfriend at lunch when you normally avoid those. And maybe that's not the right way, but I feel like we have brushed things under the rug for too long.
Well, I would say that it's not even difficult conversations. My experience has just been the refusal to talk. I mean, was the target of a cancel culture. I had a university try to get rid of me because I wrote one little essay in which I said something they didn't like. So I know what it was like to have to get an attorney and fight back against a university over simply speaking, and no one wanted to talk. As a matter of fact, that was just off the, out of the realm of possibility that we would ever talk.
It's fascinating how fast you can lose favor, right? Like,
Yes.
and then suddenly you're like,
Well, that's the culture these days.
it's like oil and water. Everyone just sort of scatters.
Yes.
I'm I'll stick by your side. I love a good fight. I'm Irish, you know what I mean? And they can't fire
So
me
am
because
I,
I
so.
own the company. So at least I figured that out. They can't
Yeah.
get rid of me because it's me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's pretty much my decision, really decades ago, even before I met the resistance, that I had to work on what I thought was important. I had to stick to my own analysis, and I had to develop a deep sense of ethics, of right and wrong, and follow my path. Another thing that getting back to talking about the men, and this applies to all people in the resistance, not just the men, is you have to trust your feelings. And that sounds sort of superficial, but back in the day, women would talk about whether you picked up creep vibes from a man. Did he give you creep vibes? And that's a little extreme, but I have learned to trust my feelings. And so many times when I meet people, that's what I do. I was just like, how did that person make me feel? What did I feel coming from them? And that has proven out so often that now that's what I rely on. And I actually turn it on. Like, how am I feeling about this person? And I would have to say then that going back to the men, I never got a feeling of a creep vibe from a man in the resistance.
I would have to agree. And speaking of how people make you feel, I mean, just working with Zara and Zalal, I mean, Zara told me that I reminded her of her mother, which is like the greatest compliment anyone could ever get. And Zalal has been so kind, and everybody here has been so kind to me, and just affectionate and and I can tell that that's not an act, and
yes, you can feel that.
You can feel it, and all the men as well. It's been really, really special. And these are people that have been through so much and continue to go through so much and have sacrificed their entire lives.
Yes.
And they're still just so compassionate and kind. And
so often you don't know that. There are women that I've known in this movement for years and years, and then suddenly someone will say something and like, they had that experience, they've never mentioned it. It's just that they just continue to do the work.
Yeah, I mean, even Zalal did a 72-day hunger strike. I mean, I can't even.
I didn't know that. See, it's something I just learned about Zola.
And as Irish people, we respect the hunger strike. Yeah, they're very effective, the H block, so wow,
that's an example that I've known Zola for years, and I did not know that she did a 72-day hunger strike.
I mean, that's these women, just been through so much and so uplifting. What would you say to people who are curious about Iran right now and are kind of feeling something? What would your advice be to them? Where should they start, or what should they look at? How can they help?
It's really challenging because we're all facing so much disinformation, so much fake news, and it used to be that I had sort of certain sources that I would trust, and there's been the collapse of so many good, legitimate news sources that now almost any time I read something that's new, startling, I pause, and I go and try to find other sources to try to check it out to see, is this true? If you want to know something about Iran, I think you really need to look to the resistance sources. You might say they're biased, and they certainly have an opinion, but they tend to be the most factual ones that I know, and I can say that by someone who's fact-checked.
I mean, that's a great point. I'm at a point now where when I'm scrolling on social media, even if I see something good, I'm like, it's probably not real.
Exactly.
Because
yes.
You really just can't.
That's it.
And then it's really interesting to see the division of the content or the gating, because everything you post on Facebook goes to Threads, but I cannot get content from Threads to Facebook, and Threads has turned into like the left-wing Twitter. So I'll see all these, videos and really important news, and you won't find it anywhere on the other platform. And so it's really, you just feel like you're being manipulated all of the time. And
I get caught now and then. now and then I put something on Twitter or Facebook, and someone will come back and say, "That's not real." I'm like, "What? What?" And so I get caught up in it too, even though I like to think that I am really a critical reader.
It's easy. I did it the other day because Tucker Carlson got detained by Israel, but not really. And I posted about it, and everybody's like, "That's not true." I'm like, "Yeah, you can't win them all." But, well, so I think to end this off, what would be your final thoughts on Iran and the message that you would like to share?
Well, one of the things, to give you a more in-depth answer to the last question, the National Council of Resistance has published a number of books. There are some really good books by Mohammad Mahadassan and Ali Risa Jafarzadeh and Marianne Rajavi, and they're really readily available. Read them, because when you start reading the in-depth discussions, you see that they're loaded with sources. You can always check the sources. You can check the facts. And when you've worked your way through one of their books, particularly by Mohammad Mahadassan and Ali Risa Jafarzadeh, you realize that this is factual. Certainly they have their point of view, and that's okay. I don't mind someone having a point of view, but it's fact-based, evidence-based.
Well, you couldn't be around for this many years and have this many people behind you for so long.
Yes.
I mean, it's really incredible that Mariam Rajavi is such support for so many years. I mean, she's doing the right thing, and she's resonating with people. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Do you want to tell us how people can support you or find you on social media or your website or anything?
Well, I actually don't have a website. That was one of the things I sort of lost when I retired. I was sick for a while, so I'm now in the process of sort of building back up my presence, and I can't say that there's one place that you can go and say, "This is where you can find me."
Well, I can help you with that, so don't worry.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really value it, and I respect you so much and tremendously, especially just for coming back to an event for so many years, and not just the event, obviously, but throughout the year, especially with personal issues and things. I think that shows such a level of commitment and integrity, and I really value that a lot. So thank you.